With a Kaibo juice gang ready to roll. Grab your paddles, let the good times flow. From the great white north to the wild unknown, we take the best canoe trips, make memories we own. Under the stars by the campfire light, we sing our songs and we laugh all night. With our trusty canoes, we explore the land. Every river, every lake, with the Kaibo juice gang. So grab a paddle and join us on the ride, singing songs side by side. Navigate the waters, laugh and cheer. In the great outdoors, the Kaibo juice gang is here.
Hi, and welcome to Kaibo Juice, the channel where we talk shit about all things backcountry. This is a new year, and we have decided to bring the whole show in-house, which allows us to create more shows without having to wait for available studio time and editing schedules. We're hoping to have a lot of shows for you this year, so hopefully you'll join in, subscribe, and pay attention. This new show of the year, it is now January 26th. Joining me in the studio, actually, we're not in a studio anymore. Joining me from locations of their choice are my friends and crew members, Andy, Adam, and Ron. And I don't know how we're going to start. I haven't filled you guys in on any topics or anything. I think the first thing, we're going to discuss where we're going this year. I think that's the best thing to do because of the fact that we always... this is usually the time of year where we plan our trips and we decide where we're going and we start looking at everything. But I think the first thing that we need to discuss is the new Ontario Parks reservation system. I don't know if you all heard about this. I know I've been speaking to Andy about it a little bit. And Adam. Ron, you know about this? Ontario Parks and a few of the parks want to do the reservation system where instead of booking lakes, you now reserve the campsite.
Now, that's been the case for a few, like Massasauga Provincial Park has always had that.
It's had it where you book the site, not
Yeah, that's where you
the
book the
lake.
site. You actually say, "This is a site I want." There are a number. There's a couple. I believe at the new Queens Provincial Park
Kearney, he did it too. We went to
is
Kearney
there.
like 2 years ago,
Who
and
did?
we got to a site. We booked a site, and we got in a kind of an argument with the people on the site saying, "This is our site." And then, like, no, did you speak to the ranger? They switched the numbers of the site. So we had to paddle back an hour to go to our site, and it was pretty crazy. That was a couple years ago already.
We've
So it
had
doesn't
that
really
before.
work.
Where were we where the site numbers were all wrong compared to the maps and everything that we had? We
Yeah, they
had that a
changed
few
them.
years back where we did that, where the site numbers were incorrect. Do you remember that, Adam?
I think it was French River.
Or was it Blind River? Yeah, I don't think it was it French? But this is the thing. They want to do this on the French River, which to me is like the worst park that you can do this, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. Because think about how many times we've done the French River and how many times when we got down to the French River Delta, which is the fingerboards in Georgian Bay, and how horrible the weather was and how high the waves were. It's like crossing an ocean. So what happens? You get down there, but then you have an hour paddle to the campsite that you have assigned for you because and there's no way to get there. It kind of doesn't make sense. I understand that they're doing it like in the elbow where remember when we went through and then you come back up and there was that like crossroads and we were fighting for the site and everybody was like we missed that site because people were heading over to it when we were heading over to it. But like in certain areas of French River Provincial Park, it makes absolutely no sense because there's times on that area where you can't travel. So I don't understand how they're going to ensure that people get to their campsites.
But it's one of those things where if it's bad for you to travel, just say it's torrential rain, the the likelihood that someone else is going to be traveling to your site will not exist.
It's not about
So,
traveling to the site. It's about think about when you get down to the bottom of French River, and now you're in Georgian Bay, and the waves are coming up, and they're like 5 feet tall, 4 feet tall. We've seen that, right? Remember, we had one site where we actually had to sit for 2 days because the waves were so big.
What happens if you get a small lake with like three sites, and then somebody says, I'm just going to book all three sites, and then nobody can stay on that lake?
oh, that's what people do.
Yeah, we've done that. That's just part of the game.
Well, unfortunately, camping it doesn't need to be a game. It's like people need to get there, and like you said, if there's an emergency and it says there's no sites on the lake, then how do you figure that there's a game with your safety? I mean, it's really the reason why they do this is because first of all, they probably want to charge you more money, which is always the case, and second of all, they want to make sure that at the busiest times you have to book a site, but most of the summer it's not so busy.
No, but I don't think it has anything to do with money. I mean, this reservation system is flawed anyways right now because it is cheaper to book an extra site because you get a car free than it is to add another car to a site.
Yeah.
So there's been times where we've had three different, like, there were a group of six. We're coming up in three cars. It's easier for each of us to book a campsite on the lake than it is to add two cars. It's cheaper than it is to add two cars to the reservation on the one site, and then we know for a fact we got three sites to choose from, and we're not going to have noisy neighbors. So that's
Yeah,
just
that used to be the case at Massasauga, but what they did there, so normally when you're booking, it is per person, but in Massasauga it is per site. So they charge $45 per site. So it's actually in that case, it's no, so that's how they fix that problem. That now, if you want to have book three sites, it's $45 a person, which is actually now more expensive
right.
than
See,
just paying
that
for
makes sense.
the car rental.
That makes sense because every other time that we've gone to a park, it was easier for us to just two people to book a site with their own free car and parking than it is to add one car to an existing campsite. And then you know for a fact that you have existing campsites to choose from when you get there, right? So it was always a flaw in the reservation system, which is why I called it a game. But in this instance, so people like us that have explored an area are going to be able to book the choice sites, and people that are new to the area that have no idea where they're going are going to end up with the dregs. Like part of
No,
the
but you can always on the site there they do have pictures of the site.
see
I
that's
know
what
that's true.
technology sucks. I don't want to know where
Well,
I'm going before I'm
again,
going.
again, when you're looking at it doesn't have a beach, the rockiness. So they do have pictures of the campsites, like normally two or three of each campsite.
So wouldn't that
So
stop people from going if they find out that all that's left are like the campsites that are like, lesser than some of the other ones? Like how many
no,
times have we been on trips and we found amazing campsites only because we got to a campsite and said this sucks, let's continue on, right? That's what exploration is about. It kind of takes that fun away from it, I think.
So what do you think about moving on to another topic and kind of saying, hey, let's go on a canoe trip and it is January 26, 2025, and how do we go from here? How do you figure out where to go next? What do you think is going to be your next adventure, gentlemen?
We're still talking about the reservation sites, man.
I know, but it's
you're
been
bored of it.
But let's go back to the way we like to do things, which is not go to parks.
yes.
What has Ron just done?
I've
Oh,
shared my screen,
Yeah.
okay.
and this is the Ontario Parks Reservation. So the question is, where do we want to go? These are all the back country. Let's just go back here.
Yeah, go back to us.
We're
Go.
here.
Okay.
This is a map of Ontario. Where is okay? So we go back. This is new. So we want backcountry paddling, and then here's all of the parks
Right. This
available.
has always existed, though.
They've slightly changed it.
Oh, really? Why? Because
Yeah,
now you can pick campsites as opposed to lakes?
yeah. Well, that's one thing, but just the coloring is different. The front this page is different.
Okay, well,
Slightly
here's the
different.
deal. Go
Where's
back
this?
to go back to us.
You know what, Ronnie? Whatever happens, there's going to be new rules all the time. We're going to figure it out. And if we get to a site and we don't like it, we're going to do what we always have done. We're just going to move along.
Right, but here's the thing. This is one of the reasons that we like bush trips and not park trips. We don't have to deal with all this bullshit. We don't have to deal with reservation systems. We don't have to deal with parking. We don't have to deal with permits and fees and any of that like shit that goes along with it. So, but
Yes.
okay, so Andy and I were talking. First of all, everyone's like, how do we start a trip? Well, first what I do is I start looking at books. Can we see this?
Move it forward a little
Canoe
bit.
Routes
Oh,
of
yeah, there you
Ontario,
go.
Kevin Callan. Kevin Callan is the man. All right, Ontario, Ontario,
Put it forward,
Lost Canoe
yeah.
Routes, Kevin Callan. Rivers of Ontario and Quebec, Kevin Callan. Ontario's Cottage Country Routes, Kevin Callan. Kevin Callan is the man. We have to have him on this show one day. But the thing is, what I'll do is I'll start looking at the books. I'll start looking at locations. We've done a lot of the routes in the top 50 routes of Ontario. I'll look at how long the trips are, how many portages. That's a big one for all of you. How many portage are we going to do for some of the guys on our group? And how far is it? Like, what I'll do is I'll say we're going to go for 10 days. So I'll find a 4 to 6 day trip that we'll do in 10 days so that we're not killing ourselves. But this year, Andy and I were talking, and we decided that we should look for a trip outside of Ontario and see what's available for a bush trip in Quebec. So go like east of Algonquin into the Laurentians and find something that's around there, like a Temagami, but in the Quebec region.
Yeah, I'm only familiar with the rivers in Quebec.
But there's got to be lots of lake loops in Quebec, right? I'm thinking it's time that we go up and then we go east as opposed to west.
Because then you get mountains.
We get a little bit more of the mountainous areas, right? Like think about when you go north of Bancroft towards like
Ottawa.
What?
Ottawa.
Ottawa is more east, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get more of the Laurentian lakes and everything. I think that this year going on a Quebec bush trip would be a complete adventure. So what we need to start doing is start all of us researching on forums and everything, who's done bush trips or loops in Quebec that are like 5-day loops, 4-day loops with, and go from there. So a lot of it is a lot of research where I spend time just like browsing the internet, looking for locations, where do people park? Where are we launching? Do we need to get hotel rooms before that? Can we camp on an old logging road on the way in? Stuff like that. But Ron, have you never heard of any loops on the Quebec side, have you?
No, I don't know the lakes in Quebec.
When you did the river trip, did you do that in the summertime?
Oh yeah. Well, spring.
And the water levels were still.
Oh, it was class 2, class 3 rapids.
Oh.
That's
Can
as
our
I said.
guys
That was
handle
that was
that?
with my solo whitewater canoe. I did that.
I'm just
So-
wondering. I'm always scared of a river trip because of the fact that if you go in August, you got 2 feet of water and you're dragging the canoes, right? We've encountered that. Look what happened. So I've always sort of avoided a river trip in August. The thing with a river trip too is the fishing isn't the same, and you don't get the loons. We did the Spanish River, we did the French River. Those are rivers, but they aren't true rivers. They're more like river systems. It's like calling the Trent River, like the Trent Severn Waterway, a river. It's really not. It's more of like a series of
the canal.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Spanish River, we didn't go down the river. We stayed in the main river system. French River, when you're in the top of the French River, is not a river per se. It's not like, it just feels like a long lake until you get down to Georgian Bay where it's all flowing. We really don't see chutes until we get towards the south. But I don't mind doing a river trip in that sense. But You know, are we prepared to go bang up all our canoes in class 2 rapids and stuff?
Wow. I can bring my whitewater canoe, my tandem whitewater canoe,
Yeah, that's one.
one of them, but it's heavy.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter in a river trip. Are you portaging in a river trip?
Normally not, but I don't care about the scrapes and scratches on canoes.
Yeah, I care about more about putting a V into
Yeah.
Pat, do you have any preferences this year? We can always go back to Tomogamy. Andy's never been.
You know what? We've done a really good job signaling out some adventures. We had a great trip last year to a new place we've never been, going places we haven't seen and taking travel we haven't gone before. I'd like to continue that. I'd like to see if we can go somewhere that we've all haven't gone. And I think your suggestion of us all like opening up a book and checking something out, and let's respond back to our viewers in a week or two's time. And viewers out there, if you know of any good places in Quebec or somewhere off the beaten path, please like, follow, and in the comments section, please tell us where a good location may be. We would be very happy to hear about it and then report back to you.
That's a great idea, except then you're going to have 400 other people booking that exact
That's okay.
location.
Yeah, they're not going to go the same time that we are. But
You never know, right? It's
the
summer,
biggest
summer.
problem with going to Quebec, as far as I'm concerned, is it's going to take us 8 hours to get there.
Okay, here's the thing.
And so if with 8 hours to get there, we can go up to like a lot of the places like a lot further than we used to go.
Right. Well, look how long it
So
took us to get to Blind River Provincial Park.
no,
I
that didn't
love.
take
I
long at
don't.
all.
It was an 8 or 9 hour drive when we went. We drove all night. You're forgetting that.
I
I
fell
mean,
asleep.
listen, you could just pivot your time or you're leaving to 5 o'clock in the morning opposed to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you have, there you have it. You just have to make a concessions on the leaving time, and 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you just pack out the night before, and then you're off, and then really time's not the issue.
When you
Oh yeah,
leave
no,
at like
I really
four,
don't care about the time. I don't care about the time. There are some of the our group, little people that don't like to drive for 8 hours.
there's also they have to
So
stop. They want a coffee. They need a smoke break.
yeah,
They need
I mean,
like,
I
oh,
I
I
drive to
forgot fishing
Florida.
lures. I forgot
I
when you
drive to
go.
Florida 12 hour, like probably 4 times a year. And really the hardest part is once you hit the 12 to 14 hour day, that's tough. But an 8 hour day is like if you leave early, it's a joke because you really go for 4 hours that you'll be sleeping. And then it's really a 4 hour day. You just have to have people that are up and ready to drive, and those who want to sleep and those who are not able to do it, you just kind of say, hey, you guys will crash in the car. I'm a morning person. I can drive for 5 hours. And then you have somebody else take over who crashes out in the car for 4 hours, and then they're happy. I mean, that's the way to do it.
I
Because
don't
who
know.
cares how far you go?
I think if you leave at like 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning, you end up starting the trip groggy and in like with less sleep, and it takes you a few days to recoup from that. We're not 20 years old anymore. I would much rather leave at noon like we always do, drive 8 hours. Like we've gotten to places at 2 in the morning where we've opened up tents and at least you get like 7 hours sleep and wake up and you're at the launch point or at least close enough to it.
No, but we can agree to disagree. I would say if we're going to push the trip and go to Quebec, my opinion is that you sleep. You'll set up a nice place to sleep in the back, and I can drive because I don't get groggy. I mean, I'm old. I wake up early. I don't need to sleep in, so I can wake up at 4:30 and go, and I'll be good until 10 o'clock at night.
And
Nope.
yeah, but you still risk getting to the camp to the launch point late. You don't have that problem if you leave noon the day before, right? It doesn't matter what
Oh,
time you get to the
listen, like I said, these are the quirks you have to do. Noon is not a good time to leave at any stage. Nobody really. I mean, we left last year at 1,
right.
and it was fine.
We
But
had a whole
if you
evening.
no, I get it.
And half
But
our adventures took place in that evening.
yeah, I get it. But anyways, if we're gonna push it to go back or a place that's further, I'm game to leave earlier. It just makes the day, if anything happens or you
I
make a
find it.
misstep, it's not dark.
I don't know. To me, it's a rush. You're rushing. When we leave at
Right.
noon the day before, you're not rushing. We've had so many times where that night, when we've gotten like when we don't know where we're sleeping, we've had like amazing Perseids that night. We've slept on beaches with a campfire going, right? Like
Yeah.
these are magical moments. If you wake up at 5 o'clock, this one needs to stop. This one he hasn't gone to the bathroom yet. This one, you're gonna get to the launch point and you're gonna be like, it's too late to leave today, and you've killed the day. So,
Well, listen, you'll find out, and that's what the research is for. I just rather have like listening to last trip. Last year was amazing, so I want to have a different trip. And as far as I'm concerned, it's all new to me. So if I go
right,
to the French River, I'm happy, or if I go to Temagami, I'm happy. But I like the adventure when you guys see a new place, and you guys can have new experiences without saying, "Hey, this is the way it was last time." And this is the way it is this time, and you compare the two, whether it's good or bad. So I feel as though a new adventure and just pushing it to go east, I think that's a great idea. You just have mountains, which is a different aspect.
right. Yeah, you're basically got yeah. It's going to be way more hilly and everything where we
So we
go.
go for trout instead of going for walleye.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Oh, we all like walleye.
I
Adam,
get
if
it,
you had a
but
preference, would you leave it? You've done it before. You left once.
Hmm.
See, this is all parts of the trip that have to be worked out before. People always just like plan and go and like we try to work out all of this, including like getting there and when we're launching everything. You did it once where we went to Temagami, Adam, and you ended up leaving at like 3 in the morning and joined us. Do you remember that?
I sure
You had
do.
the Jeep.
Yep.
And was that a better way to do it than leaving the day before, where we all just relaxed and had a dinner around a campfire and like went to sleep that night?
I'm just like Andy. I'm an early riser as well. So for me to pack the night before, put everything in the car, get up and hit the road, it's nothing.
And you didn't feel like you were rushing and that like
Invigorated. I was in no rushing. I was invigorated. I was ready to go. I was anxious.
it's
It,
it's it, for an early riser, it's so much better because you're not like, listen, it's either you sleep or you don't, and like those who can drive in the morning, it's invigorating for somebody if you get to sleep, Ronnie, for 3 hours in the car, which you probably won't. But if
no,
you get
I'm
to sleep
usually
in the
driving.
car, yeah, so but if you're not driving, I'm the driver. So I drive for 16 hours with two breaks or three breaks to fill up a gas, and you're literally there and you get to enjoy the best part of the day opposed to showing up at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and then having to do all this stuff. It's better to get there 5 hours earlier than right on time.
Right, but if we're going 8 hours away, if you leave at 3 in the morning, you're not getting to the
No, you're
place
you-
till
you're
like
leaving you're
11.
leaving at you're leaving at 5. If you start to leave at like if everybody meets at 5, you're meeting at 6, you're leaving at 6:30.
Then you're not getting to a camp, so you're not getting to the launch point till 2 o'clock.
You are not getting to the launch
I'm saying
site
if we're
until,
going 8 hours away,
yeah.
you're not getting to the launch point at 2 o'clock. You're not launching. By the time you unload the car, load the canoes, it's 3:30. Where are you going?
what do our listeners think? Put this is on YouTube, so put your comments in. What should we do? Should we leave in the morning or should we do it Ronnie's way? What do you think? Ronnie, you got to brush up on your au français.
Why? We don't see anybody where we're going. I don't
Google
care.
translates.
It's the same thing. The loons speak one
Oui, très
language.
désolé. Je peux pas comprendre.
We've had that before where we ended up in Quebec. So everyone's got homework. This is how we usually start the trip. I want all my guys to basically start looking at locations and showing us. And then what we do is we go to Google Earth and we look at the topography. Are there beaches? Are there, is are we going to use a map again that doesn't have campsites on it or campsites that are from 1956, right? With
Listen,
the
I like the train. Is there a train that goes there?
no, I don't want any more trips with trains.
Okay.
No, I'll
No
go on a
fun.
trip with a train, but I don't want to be beside train tracks anymore. That kind of it I did not like that last year. As much as I loved the trip last year, I did not like having the trains within 50 kilometers of me everywhere we went. It just was like I don't want to listen to trains when I'm out there. I want to hear the loons. It was a great location, don't get me wrong. I would go farther again. Like maybe we do get on the train again and we go farther this time. But
Yeah.
remember that whole area, every lake, every area, every moment felt the same. There was really no difference in topography. You agree with that, Adam? Like every lake was the same, all the fishing was the same. Every like it wasn't. We've been to so many trips where you get to the next lake, you're like, wow, look at this one, right? And we were lacking that last year.
And I think you'll get to the I think you'll get to like when you go to Quebec, it'll be totally different.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, it'll have that hilly feeling to it. You're in the base of the Laurentians and everything, right? Like
Yeah,
it'll have a completely different feeling to it than when, we that's the beauty about Ontario. You have Killarney, which feels so much different than Algonquin, which feels so much different than Temagami, which is so much different than the French River, like than Georgian Bay. Like it's everywhere you go is a different feeling to it. We've even had places like when you go to Chiniguchi where there's a fork and you can actually see Killarney and Temagami and they like you're sitting there and they look completely different. Like they look
amazing.
different, right? So, we've explored all that. I'd love to go farther. The problem is that can our cars go farther? Like how many places are there where our cars won't go? We don't need to break axles and windshields and all of that
You
again.
know what? Most of the places have good roads. This is not, the
There was
70s or the 80s where they had to. When I went to Killarney back in the 80s, it was an hour and a half to get there off the road for the last, 30 kilometers. It was so bad.
right.
Now it's like a 30-minute drive.
I
So
remember
no,
being in Algonquin when I was 13 years old, and not only did we not see any people, we were drinking the water directly out of the lake. We dip the paddle and drink off the paddle. Like I would
But
never
it
attempt that now. But
but it sounds like nobody's against going to Quebec, so let's call it Quebec.
I would say let's do a Quebec trip this year. We start
Yeah,
looking. We always have places to fall back to. That's the nice thing. We've explored enough that if worse comes to worse, we have bush trips that we could go to where we know the fishing's good, where we've been a few times, where we know there's wildlife, etc., etc. We're not going to see people. It's always good to have a fallback spot. And of
yeah,
course, Andy hasn't been there yet, so it's new for him. But yeah, I'm still of the mindset of let's keep exploring and let's keep seeing places that we haven't seen before while we can.
amazing.
So let's look into Quebec trips this year and see if we could find anything in the bush where we could drop like our cars off and disappear for, do a 5-day trip in 10 days somewhere that we can actually catch fish and have dinners too.
I mean, listen, going back to our trip this year, I mean, the fishing potentially should have been amazing,
It was.
but but it wasn't. You didn't have like you've mentioned in the past that you've been on trips where you literally put the you put a hook in the water, you would catch fish. I
Yeah.
thought that's the way this was going to be, but it wasn't. We worked.
Well, not true. I mean, we were fishing for pickerel, we basically always caught pickerel.
Yes, but it wasn't like you go out and there was like unlimited. There were still people that didn't catch fish. I mean, which was pretty weird that tried to fish.
Yeah, they just suck at fishing.
Yeah, I know, but you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had to put that in there.
I caught fish every
Sorry.
time I went out to catch walleye. Every time I went out to catch walleye, I came back with walleye.
Right.
So
I
explain
think
to me
there was
why
one
those other
person
guys
that did
didn't
it.
come back with walleye. Maybe they just don't know what they're doing.
Oh, they do. They
I
do
don't
know
think
what they're
so.
doing. Yeah,
No, I don't. I disagree with that.
I get
Every
it.
time we needed to catch fish, we caught fish. You and I caught like 8 pike in an hour.
Right.
What
It was
amazed
good,
me,
but
what amazed me is we didn't catch anything that was like over 10 pounds.
yeah,
I
they
was
were
expecting to
skinny.
reel in monsters in that place, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
everything was like the same size. So
yeah.
that's where I was surprised. I wasn't surprised at the fishing. I was surprised of the lack of trophy fish. And we've had places we've gone to where, we're catching like trophy fish. I don't think
What
so.
are the fishing? What are the rules for fishing
On
in
what?
Quebec? Do we need a fishing license?
Yeah, I assume
We
so.
probably need a Quebec fishing license.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I mean.
That's just part of the whole.
Yeah.
Not a big
More
You
deal.
can buy a
logistics.
week.
Yeah, that's all stuff that we could do before the trip.
Yeah. Hey,
Okay,
listen.
so everyone has homework now to basically find a 5-day route that doesn't have like 15K worth of portages to it.
Yeah, listen, we can also look at leaving going up through Walden Way, through that way, because that's where really the mountains start. And I can even
Right.
speak. I
That
can
would be
see
our, what is that? Don't say Walden. No one knows what that is. That's north of
Bancroft.
Bancroft. No, but there's a
Bancroft.
name for it. What's the name of the town?
Where?
Where Walden is.
Bancroft.
No, it's
What?
north of Bancroft. There's a name for it.
I can get it for you.
I'm trying to remember what it's called. Yeah, you go east from there, I'm saying. That's the beginning of the Laurentians in Ontario.
Yeah.
So
Is
east of that area. I've seen some trips. I've looked at trips before and I've seen trips. I just gotta find them. Like I've collected over the years, right? Like I've put stuff aside saying, oh, we should do that one year. The problem is like, when you start looking and it goes, oh, there's only a 3K portage between here and there. It's like, well, so and so's not going to be able to handle that.
I'm going to touch base with some old trippers from Walden too, and some trippers there now. And I'll speak to Saul, the owner of Walden, and say, do you have any routes outside of Bancroft towards like Ottawa, Quebec? Is there any routes that you recommend? And
That's
go
a
from
great
there.
idea, actually, is to call up some of the summer camp directors that we know and ask them, like, because I was just speaking to the directors of Erewhon, and they were telling me that all their trippers, they have like 30 trippers on staff now, but they're doing like whitewater trips. They
Yeah.
said that they're getting bored of flat water. I'm like, I'm never bored of flat water. And
Well,
she,
that's why. I spoke to I spoke to one of the trippers. I said, "Where were you?" He says, "I just went on a 9-day canoe trip."
right, but they're going to like the Nahanni River and stuff like that now. They're not even like go. We always did that camp Algonquin,
You mean where the
Killarney.
background of my pictures from the
Y-
Nahanni River when I went
Yeah.
down there? Oh
Is
yeah,
that where that's from? Nahanni?
that's from the Nahanni. That's flying into the base camp at Nahanni.
That's awesome. So, how are we ending this?
Okay,
What?
the other
What?
part about Quebec is what. So you do realize that we can just north of Temagami is the Quebec border.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We
So
just go. You just keep going straight. Wait, I
straight
thought
up.
north of Temagami was Temaskaming.
And to the east is
Right.
Quebec.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. We go in and
Yeah,
over
yeah.
and find
So
a.
so basically there's it's just basically still canoeing in the Temagami region.
Right. Let's do Temagami, but with French-speaking mountains. All right, Adam. I'm going to let you conclude today. Say what you want to say.
I just wanted to thank everybody for stopping by and joining our podcast today on all things backcountry. We're starting off with some decisions that need to be made for our August trip and some really good ideas. So I'd like to share with our audience. If you have any thoughts of our podcast, any suggestions on where we should go or what we should do, please enter them in the comments below, and we'll be sure to answer them as soon as possible. And thank you once again for joining us.
Do you think we should do that contest now and give it away in like May before the start of camping season?
I would tell everybody right now to stay tuned to our podcast. There's some exciting happenings going on. We have some giveaways. Kaibo Juice has some merch and some decent merch at that. And so stay tuned to our podcast in the future and be a part of our growing family. And perhaps you can grab some of this Kaibo Juice merch.
Awesome. All right, we all have homework to do. We got to start looking at trips in the Quebec bush, in the Ontario bush. I don't care if we drive 10, 12, 15 hours. It is what it is, and we figure it out. Right? We're okay to go a little farther this year and spend more time in the car?
I think the further you go away from society, there's less people from society and there's more stuff to see.
Exactly. Better fishing.
Yeah.
All right. Next time. Bye, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Take care.